but we will go ahead and get started. It is such a pleasure. I'm Danielle Kenyon, Associate Dean for Community Health and Engagement, to welcome Dr. Lori Alvord as our 9th annual Distinguished Scholar in Native American Health. And it is such a treat to bring her to speak with you today. And just a warm thanks to my team, Donis and Damon, and to making this happen. And we're so excited to bring her in from Washington. And we would like to acknowledge that USD exists on ancestral lands of Indigenous people and that the heritage and culture continues to enrich our community to this day. So it's with profound respect that we do acknowledge this at least once a year, and give appreciation for the Indigenous people of this land and what they're doing for our culture, not only in the past, but the present and the future. So this talk is a very special way that we try to incorporate and honor and make it a part of what we do at the med school every day. So to kick it off, Dr. Lori Arvizo Alvarez is a surgeon and author and the first member of the Navajo tribe to be a board certified in surgery. So I won't say too much more about her bio because I know that's a lot of her talk, but she overcame extraordinary odds of living on the reservation to become a surgeon and created a best-selling memoir, The Scalpel and the Silver Bear, in 1999, and is only now coming, and she's getting a lot of recognition that she'll share with you. And just so proud that this has been a book that Donis leads a book club for our first year students. So several of you have read it. Excited for you to meet Dr. Alvarez. But again, later used in many university and medical school courses across the nation. So she currently holds appointments at Johns Hopkins. She has done admissions at Dartmouth, University of Arizona, and Michigan, started medical school there. She has been honored by Stanford as an alumni, and was also featured in the National Library of Medicine exhibit, Changing the Face of Medicine, honoring pioneering women physicians over the past 150 years, as well as the PBS documentary Medicine Woman, which profiles 4 Native American women physicians. So just such a pleasure to have her and share her story with us today. Please help me welcome Dr. Lori Alvord.
Doing one quick sound check. Can you hear me pretty well back in the back? You guys are good? All right. I'm gonna be looking at you two back there. If you can't hear me, I need you to go like that, okay? And perfect. Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yat Lori Arvizo Alvord, Yenishe, Sinajini Dosh, Ashihidine, Bashichin, Crown Point, Nasha. And what I said is, hello, my name is Lori Arvizo Alvord, and I am a member of 2 clans of the Navajo, the Sinajini, Ponderosa Pine, and the Ashihidine, which are the Salt people. And I come from Crown Point originally, which is in New Mexico on the eastern side of the reservation. This talk is a very chunky talk. This talk could easily take 90 minutes or more to do. So if you see me flipping past slides kind of quickly, it's just because I had to chop it down for you guys. But I'm hopeful that we'll get the main points across, and all will be well if we're lucky. I'm starting actually with something that happened last month in the Wall Street Journal. Olivia Campbell is a journalist that released an article for them called 5 Best on Women in Science, and mentioned 5 books that she thought were the best for women in science. And book number 3 is The Scalpel and the Silver Bear. So if you were asked at any time to read this book, you can feel validated that the Wall Street Journal thinks it's worthy. Thank you for that. I start my talk with a short, and I will also have to say it's going to be a shorter than usual narrative. It's part of ceremony medicine, the chapter, to set the tone and pace for what I'll talk about next, which are the healing properties of our ceremonies, Navajo ceremonies. There might not even be another Navajo in the room, but what I want to say is this talk translates across culture. Many tribes have very many similarities to our ceremonies, and many other cultures. I've had people from the Middle East and from Asian cultures tell me that their ceremonies are also using some of the modalities that we use inside of our ceremony. So it's really meant not to be just about Navajos, even though, yes, we do think that we are at the center of the universe, but beside that, the Kotas would beg to differ. And I'm on their land, so I better shut up now. I'm going to start. The first set of the slides, which should be automatic sliding, are part of my family, but then it goes into Navajo culture. So you guys have something to look at while I'm doing my, while I'm reading, okay? This was when I was younger and prettier. I'm older and not very pretty, but life happens, right? We're going to go to a ceremony on the reservation. It's called the Night Chant, and I'm just sharing some excerpts of what it's sort of like to be at one. And this is for a woman named Carolyn Yaji. I did not know this young woman or her family, but she was clearly ill, and that is why she was sitting wrapped in blankets on this January evening in front of the Hogan. She was there to be cured. On this night, everyone had come together for one reason. Talking God, Hashchethti, would dance in the firelight beneath the thick silver belt of the Milky Way to cure this girl. The songs of the night chant tell of the beauty of the Navajo universe. House made of dawn, house made of evening light, house made of dark cloud. Dark cloud is at the house's door. The trail out of it is dark cloud. The jagged lightning stands high upon it. Happily may I walk. Happily with abundant showers may I walk. Happily with abundant plants may I walk. Happily on the trail of pollen may I walk. Happily may I walk. May it be beautiful before me. May it be beautiful behind me. May it be beautiful below me. May it be beautiful above me. May it be beautiful all around me. In beauty it is finished. Hojona Hasli, Hojona Hasli, Hojona Hasli, Hojona Hasli. The Yebache, the night chant, has to be held on a winter night when the snakes are sleeping and before the thunder comes. It is said that everyone who attends the night chant benefits from the ceremony's healing power. They would stay all night long outside in winter, but they were also there because it is what they should do, be there on this night. A woman came out and wrapped an extra blanket around the girl and placed a basket with corn pollen in her lap. Then, from beyond the makeshift parking lot, shapes emerged from the dark emptiness. It was the dancers. At first, there were only 3, and they approached slowly. They were nearly naked, wearing only small skirts of wool and moccasins, their bodies painted white with ash. The first was Hashchethti, Talking God. He danced toward the girl with a bouncing movement. Behind him came Water Sprinkler, the clown, and behind him, third and last in the group, a figure completely hunched over like an arthritic old man. It was Yasketi, the hunchback, the ram, whose wooden cane spoked into 3 branches at the bottom like a claw. Their feet stamped in unison. They shook rattles in their right hands. Then Hashchethli let loose a series of cries that echoed 4 times into the night air. Together they began to chant a song together they began to chant a song that belonged to the night. The night chant, like all our ceremonies, is a gift from the Ye, the Kachinas, the ancient holy people who come to visit the Dene during this ceremony. The girl got up from her chair and pulled the blankets around her tightly. She walked over to the 3 dancers with a wand-like wave of her arm. She sprinkled corn pollen onto each of them. The dancers shook their rattles in sweeping gestures toward the earth. They went back to where they had come from. Their brightness closed back into the dark envelopes of the mesa. All the people were there to help this girl get well, and she must be aware of the power of their collected presence around her. She could feel, see, and smell this medicine. It was hypnotic, the repetitive chants, the smell, swirl, and sting of wood smoke, the rhythms and rattles and rhythms of the drums, the appearance and disappearance of the dancers. In spite of my medical training, I knew being surrounded by one's family and greater community for 9 days and seeing dancing gods smudged with gray ash, bringing healing chants from the dark mesas would have a very positive effect on her condition, whatever that might be. Ceremonies are magical and powerful. A spiritual intensity and an energy surrounds the ceremony that is almost completely absent in Western medicine. Centrally, however, the purpose of the ceremony is to help the patient return to a way of thinking and living in harmony and balance, which helps guide the patient's body back to health. During my training at Stanford, I had yearned for something like it for my non-Indian patients there. They went through their operations alone or nearly alone. Their minds and their spirits were often not prepared for surgery and could not assist in healing them, nor did their family and community come together for the purpose of helping them heal. And I wondered if other people whose ancestors had been part of tribes centuries ago yearned for tribal identity. And in the roar of the Yebiche fires beneath the starry sky, I felt how lucky I was to be part of my own tribe. And even though the night chant had not been for my own patient, I was glad that I had come. Okay. And a paw. How do I close this? I'm looking for the X up here. Escape? Okay. Let's escape. There we go. Oh, maybe. Ooh, go away. All right, go ahead. I refer to technology as coyote. Those of you who understand the coyote in our world is he's a trickster. He's like this. Anyway, okay. Let's go ahead and go into the formal talk. And I currently practice in Eastern Washington. My patients are the Yakima tribe and the Yakima Valley farm workers, some of our immigrants that bring food to our tables, and also wine and beer. We have some of the largest hop fields in the country in the state of Washington and in our valley. My family is descended partly from this man, Jesus Arvizo. He's my grandmother's grandfather. He is not Navajo, he is Spanish. He was captured by the Apaches as a teenager and sold to the Navajo. He learned their language and he actually was the interpreter for our tribe for the first treaty of the Navajo tribe with the United States government. He's here with Chief Manuelito for that meeting. He's over here on the far side. Quite a guy. He had 4 Mexican wives and 1 Navajo wife. No, 4 Navajos and 1 Mexican wife. And there are a lot of Arvizos in Navajo country. They can all trace their lineage, everyone I've met, back to this one guy. But anyway, he also, the big reason he's here is he also helped Washington Matthews, who was a noted ethnographer, translate the night chant. And there is a book called The Night Chant published by the University of Utah that they published way back. So we're going to go to my reservation, the Navajo reservation. We're going to go to 2 places, to Canyon de Chelly, which is right here. And we're also briefly going to talk for a moment about Mount Taylor. And I grew up right about here in Crown Point. Tzotzil is our southern sacred mountain. It is said to be fastened to the earth with a turquoise knife. We bury our placentas where we want our children to be connected to. I wanted my children to be connected to their culture, and both of their placentas are buried at the highest part of Tzotzil, Mount Taylor. This is a changing woman, Asanyal Yehe. She is said to have created the Navajo people out of parts of her own body. She's one of the holy people. Again, this is a more conventional map that's showing some of these places. This is Chaco Canyon. And it is where some of the ancient people lived. They used to be, I just learned this, they used to be called, what was they called? What are they called? Uh, I'll think of it in a minute. But now they're not called that anymore because that's thought to be derogatory. But the reason I put them in here is they're the cliff dwellers. Anybody? All right, never mind. There's always a flaw in my talks, or more than one sometimes. In Navajo culture, they always intentionally make one small flaw in their rugs, and that's so that they don't try to be perfectionists, and that is meant, to not mock our creator. But here at Chaco, and the reason we're going to Chaco is because of this one petroglyph. It's a spiral petroglyph. And as you can see, it's bounded on either side by two shafts of light. And during the winter solstice, and only on that day, the two lights come on either side of this petroglyph and shine through. And then on the summer solstice, and only on that day, one shaft of light goes right through the middle of the petroglyph. And this was done on a sazi. All right, I'm answering my own question. It took me 2 minutes, but my brain is not completely gone. The Anasazi built Chaco, but we're not supposed to say that word anymore. So anyway, I don't know why. I don't know why. NAS, I don't know. Anyway, but if you sit and think about it, this was created at least as far back as 1300 AD. It still works. This thing still works. To know that the people that this is about ancient wisdom, the people that built this and made this petroglyph had to understand planetary motion. They had to understand architecture. They had to understand engineering, and they had to build something that would last almost 1,000 years now. Okay, how many things around you can you see or find that have that capability? But those people, those ancient people, were able to do that. So I always set this as the anchor for my talk. Now we're going to Canyon de Chelly, and that is only because the night chant was born here. It is considered the center of our Navajo universe. It's very beautiful. During the ceremony, during the ceremony, sand paintings are made on the sand, and they are destroyed at the end of the ceremony. The patient sits on the sand painting, and these are the holy people. These are the depictions in sand painting of the holy people. And she physically, spiritually joins with their holy power as part of this ceremony. And the healers do this all with sand coming out of their hands. And they are supposed to be able to create these paintings without any template, it's from their minds to their hands to the sand. And they have to be just perfect, Imagine how hard that could be to create these sand paintings. The girl is sung over. She is, her mind and her body are purified during this ceremony. We'll go into mind states in ceremony in just a few minutes, but these are some of the headdresses of the Ye, the holy people that came dancing that I described. And this is Hashchati, talking God, is right here. Calling God is right here. The twin children of Changing Woman are right here, the sons. And then down here, who's kind of got an important role in this talk, is the blue ram, Yaskiti, the hunchback, and we'll come back to him in a few minutes, okay? This is you cannot take pictures of the dances or the dancers, but this is an artist's painting of the dancers. You can see that their dress is very elaborate. There is quite a lot of turquoise. There is moccasins and woven skirts. So in our way of thinking about illness, we say that illness is disharmony. Disharmony is what is illness. And it can be illness of the mind, illness of the body, or even illness of the spirit that then causes physical illness. It can be an illness of whole communities, or disharmony, or out of balance, or our relationships to the animal world or the environment. And every one of these areas has to be in harmony and in balance for there to be wellness. Okay. So this is a systems thinking approach to illness. It's not too dissimilar to the union of medicine and public health. However, there you are. However, Danielle comes to us from public health. However, public health and medicine do not include the spirit, do they? Not explicitly anyway, right? And the animals, well, you know, sometimes they care about the animals, sometimes they don't, unfortunately. It is very difficult to describe all the elements of the night chant, but if we had to take it down to one central premise or one central idea, it is this idea of Hojo. Hojo is a word that encompasses beauty, harmony, balance, and peace. It is a state of being. It is a state of living. And it is also described as an energy that is considered very beautiful and glittering and sparkling. It's very, and it's inside of everything. It is part of a larger phrase, Sa'anagai Bekehojo. It's a lot of Navajo. You'll be a quiz at the end, so study hard. Sa'anagai is male, Bekehojo is female. Sa'anagai is Father Sky, Bekehojo is Mother Earth. It is a lot like yin and yang of the Asian worlds. It's a balance of the male and the female, but it's also, it translates as living your life in spiritual balance, but it's also a name of our universe. Our universe is referred to as this, and our creator, which is not separate from the universe. In other words, we view the universe as our creator, and that in a very literal sense is true, because we would not have come into being if we didn't have everything around us to make us, right? All the proteins and amino acids and all that good stuff. But we go further and say that the creator also has a consciousness, that our universe has a consciousness, and that we are part of that consciousness. So our ceremonies are meant to bring us into closer union with our creator and with the universe, and in that way to bring healing to all those elements that I talked about a few slides ago. I'm going to talk about the mind, the body, and then also the spirit as it relates to animals and the environment in the rest of this talk. And I might run out of time. I'm just going to tell you ahead of time, but I'm going to do my best to get through. In our world, we believe that thoughts have great power and meaning, and it is possible to speak or think something into existence. We discourage thinking about things in a negative way or saying negative things like, I hope my car doesn't break down on the way to work. That can call that energy toward you. So we are some of the original positive thinkers, if you will. And when we say at the end of our prayers, with beauty before me, there may I walk, it is also calling in to the idea that we would like to live in a way that is peaceful and harmonious. When I was pregnant with my first child, Cody, that's the one you saw with the cap and gown. That was when he graduated med school at Brown. He's also in family medicine, just about to finish residency on the Big Island in Hawaii in June. Anyway, When I was pregnant with Cody, the Navajo nurses used to tell me that I should be careful what I let into my mind, because whatever came into my mind would affect the baby. And they would say, do not watch any violent movies. So back then, out went Clint Eastwood and Steven Seagal. And do not get into arguments. It should be like you should be in a tranquil state, because everything affects the baby. Well, they were absolutely right in a very literal sense, because I picked up literature in my first OB visit from the March of Dimes that said during pregnancy, women should avoid stress. And that increased stress during pregnancy was associated with premature delivery of the baby. This is exactly what the Navajo nurses were telling us in a different way, right? That we needed to protect ourselves from these stresses. Well, so that introduces the idea of the possibility of things entering our mind that can affect our body. That's a very literal example of a pregnancy association. But it turns out that a few decades ago, people started to ask the question, do mind states affect the physiology of the body? And it turned out that absolutely they do. Started with the work of Herbert Benson at Harvard, who did very simple things, checking to see if mind states affected blood pressure and heart rate, and it turned out they do. And that was known as biofeedback. They started altering mind states, and they found that they could alter heart rates and blood pressure. Well, that led on and on and on into a field now known as psychoneuroimmunology. And what this is a relatively old article, but I use it because it encompasses some of the concepts I'm talking about here. But what they found in their review of the literature was that stress was associated with our physiology by impairing our immune system, IgG, IgA, natural killer cells, that minds out of balance, meaning stress and depression, distress, depression, were actually associated with processes for carcinogenesis, poorer repair of damaged DNA, alteration in programmed cell death, or also known as apoptosis. Wow, who knew? Stress or depression could increase your susceptibility to infectious disease. Certain mental states were associated with immune function and health, such as how much control people had over their lives and their views of themselves and the future. Well, that's exactly what we were talking about when I said Navajos have to view themselves in a positive way, thinking about the future in a good way. What interventions helped? Relaxation training, stress management, like the Navajo nurses were saying, and support groups. Well, what is a ceremony but a support group? All the people were there to help this girl get well, and she must be aware of the power of their collected presence. Okay, it's not like a cancer support group like we're used to seeing at the cancer centers, right? But definitely it's all about healing. Well, this is a quote from Thomas Hatotley, who is a medicine man and also a mental health counselor. He says this: the key to restoring a person to health, whether it is mental or physical, is to purify their thoughts. And we do have purification as part of our ceremonies, cleansing and purification of the mind. The thought is the foremost energy that we have as a person. Ceremonies are done to beautify thought again. And if that can happen, the rest should follow in terms of the physical self. Hojo is the embodiment of these concepts. Thomas Hatotley has never taken a course in psychoneuroimmunology. The medicine men knew about these relationships between the mind and the body before Herbert Benson and Harvard. Just saying. All right. This is, again, Changing Woman, Nastan Nalyehi, creating the people, and each group of people are called clans. I mentioned my clans before, and each clan is associated with various things, but including animals. So there are 4 bear clans in Navajo. We are one of the bear clans. Sinajini, not Ashidene. Ashidene would say no. So if you think about the idea that the mind can be affected and by many things, and that in turn affects the body, then you look at how is the mind influenced? Well, the mind is influenced by what it sees, what it hears, what it touches, what it tastes, what it smells, all of our senses and our breath, okay? And then if you look at the other side, you can see that in ceremony, all these things are happening. Guided imagery. I gave you that very brief part of a chant. On the trail of pollen, there may I walk. That's guided imagery. You know, with abundant plants may I walk. More guided imagery. Music therapy, chant and drum. You'll see this, and you'll see it in powwow too. That's coming into the body. I didn't mention vibration, but I truly believe vibration is part of this process as well. I've studied acupuncture as well, and acupuncture believes in chi meridians, which have been partially proven through science. And the meridians and the chi is affected by vibrational forces, okay? So chant and drums really matter. Touch and massage, I'll get into in a minute with the Kenalta, which is the woman's puberty ceremony. Food and flavors can calm you and make you happy, as can smells, as can meditation. The chants are a form of meditation because they're often very repetitive. For that matter, so is the rosary. I used to think, why would people say the same thing over and over again to chant, to do a rosary? But it's a form of meditation, and it may very well be an entry into this world. Okay. Eastern spiritual practices have been studied by neuroscientists, particularly meditation and mindfulness. Native American practices have not. However, there are many similarities between the Eastern practices and some Native American practices, as I just talked about, right? And what they found by studying the Asian and the Eastern spiritual practices is, oops, sorry, I'm skipping over. Chant and prayer, involved meditation, drum, as I mentioned, guided imagery, and energy medicine. So, I love this. The people studied long-term meditators, Buddhist monks, and they did functional MRIs on their brains. And they found that the left prefrontal lobe had increased activity, which is associated with increased focus and attention, feelings of happiness, calm, and well-being, increased immune response. And the investigators were Richard Davidson and Sarah Lazar at U Wisconsin and Mass General. So there's the functional MRI showing this area. The insula is in green on the left, and the prefrontal cortex circled in blue on the right were thicker. The cortexes of the meditators are thicker than the average brain. Think about that. Think about that. The brain is changed by some of these practices, literally physically changed. It's just wild. Here's another example of mind-body medicine. This was published in Cell in 2023. It says the enteric nervous system relays psychological stress to intestinal inflammation. What is psychological stress? Mind's out of balance, mind's out of harmony, lack of hojo, right? Okay, chronic stress hits the pituitary gland through the hormones, hits the adrenal glands through the glucocorticoids. They get released, they affect acetylcholine, they affect neurons, which cause dysmotility. Over here, they affect the nerves, and they hit the monocytes, and that causes inflammation. All mapped out for you guys. Not a surprise anymore. It's not voodoo. People used to think that our ceremonies were not real. They thought that there was no value to them. They thought that that real healing wasn't occurring. Real healing is occurring. Okay, let's talk about the physical wellness now. So this is partly about ceremony and part about native culture. Physical wellness, traditional lifestyle, pre all the electricity and the, all the conveniences of modern life. Lifestyles, traditional lifestyles are very physically vigorous. Hauling water, chopping wood, hunting, growing things. Physical wellness in traditional communities is essential. It's not an option. You don't get to be a couch potato. You don't get to sit around. You had to use your body if you wanted to survive. And physical wellness is very celebrated in some of our ceremonies. In the girls' puberty ceremony, the Kennelda, she runs to meet the dawn every morning, and the community runs after her to catch her. Strength and physical well-being are prized, and during this time, part of the ceremony, she lies face down on blankets. The women massage her body and tell her she will be strong. That is something that we value inside of our ceremonies. Well, does it matter if you're strong? Yes. By the way, she's making a corn cake, which is baked in the ground. And it's often, these days, has cinnamon and sometimes raisins in it. And it's divided ceremonially, and each member of the community is given it. And during part of the ceremony, she becomes changing woman. She has the power to heal. Everyone comes in front of her one by one, and she puts her hands on them to heal them. It's a beautiful example of empowering women. We are a matriarchal society. We believe in the wisdom and power of women. And this is a way of preventing some of the things we see in Western society, like anorexia, bulimia, lack of self-worth, the constant feeling that you need to be physically beautiful or you're not valuable in our society. All these things, no. We do want her to have long hair. They mentioned long hair. And what is hair but protein? So if you have long hair, it means your body is healthy. Your body is making enough stuff to make protein to give you long hair. You're doing good. All right. Traditional diets also very much lean toward healing, healthiness, because traditional diets are based on grains, vegetables, fish, meat, and they're much higher in fiber and much less in fat and starches and carbohydrates. Also, berries and nuts are very high in antioxidants. I'm sure some of you eat wojapi here, and it's very important. Well, guess what? It's also helping fight cancer and what is it, superoxide dismutase? Have you gotten to that yet? They free radicals. They go around and scavenge the free radicals. They're like, you know. You would think that they were like little wolves or something going all over the body, freeing things up. But just by returning to what we used to eat, we could be healthier. Obesity, oh my gosh, obesity is an epidemic in our society right now. Obesity contributes or makes worse every single illness. It contributes to cancer. It leads to sometimes to diabetes. It causes all kinds of problems. By the way, inactivity leads to osteoporosis, poor bones. I mean, all the things that we did as traditional people we as human beings are meant to use our bodies. We are designed to use our bodies. And that's what keeps us healthy. And we need to go back and remember that. Meat, we didn't eat that much meat. If you killed a deer, it might have to last all winter. You only ate it in small amounts. And then we have a spiritual connection to healthy foods. This is a this is a rug. We have them in sand painting and rugs of Mother Earth and Father Sky. Mother Earth has corn, squash, beans, and tobacco. Father Sky has the sun and the moon and the stars and constellations. Well, corn, squash, and beans, a nutritionist once told me, if you have those in your diet, it fulfills 97% of your nutritional requirements for to be a human. And there we are. There's our traditional teachings telling us what we need to eat. You know, I didn't make this stuff up. Here is another example, a beautiful example of Mother Earth and Father Sky. This one is in sand painting as well. Okay, ooh, I'm getting there, I'm almost there. I might even have time for question and answers. Okay, we'll talk about spirit. We believe that, as I mentioned earlier, that we are spiritual beings and we are part of the universe. Part of the way that we are part of the universe is through sacred winds. The word is nilche. Our breath is part of this wind. These are ancient winds. They have been in the universe for centuries, millennia. Our breath is part of this wind. Our belief, as I said before, is that health is the well-being of every part of the universe because everything is interconnected. Our spirituality and our ceremonies strengthen the relationships between humans because they speak to the importance of good relationships with other humans, families and communities, and also the non-human world, the animal world, and the environment. Dark cloud is at the house's door. The trail out of it is dark cloud. That's a cloud pregnant with rain, which brings water to our plants and helps them to grow and lets us drink the water. Okay, this sounds sort of mystical, right? Spiritual mystical. It is and it isn't. We are part of so many cycles that interconnect us with everything around us. We breathe oxygen created by plants. We breathe out carbon dioxide. They need that. They take that to grow. Energy transfers. We eat an apple. It gives us strength and energy. We send that back out. We use things in part of what we do to strengthen the soil of our world. We view the importance of clean water and clean air as necessary for survival. Unfortunately, Western societies do not put as high a value on these things, but our public health people will tell us that we need that. We don't need bad air causing asthma in our children. You know, we don't need polluted water making all of us sick. We can't have those things and still be healthy. Not to mention the fact that we need a planet to live on, and that's the questions and problems of climate change, right? Are we going to have a planet that we can? The planet's going to be fine, by the way. The planet's just going to get rid of us and go on and make everything better again after we're gone. We may not survive, but our planet, it may take us a few more million years. It's going to be okay. We say that our natural world is sacred and at the heart of ceremonies. All of our prayers and songs are grounded in the natural world. House made of dawn, house made of evening light. But if you step back a minute and you think about this, we assign the natural world with spiritual values. We call the earth mother, we call the sky father, we call them sacred, and we call them family. Well, if any culture gives a value assignment of family or sacred to anything, those are the things that they will protect and defend at all costs. Things that are sacred to us and things that are our family. And when you apply these value assignments to the natural world, then they are protected. And that should be our primary gift to the outer world, the non-Indigenous world, is to tell them that you need to save our environment. You need to treat it as family. You need to treat it as sacred, okay? And that gives you, it's a protective effect on our ecosystem, and then of course a protective effect on us ourselves, because we need that ecosystem. This is an artist's rendition, Navajo artist Harrison Begay's rendition of Sacred Mountain, where we are living in harmony with every part of our natural world, the animals, the air, the sky, the earth, everything, the plants. And then we'll probably finish up with the night chant. So I told you the ram would be important later. So there he is again. The night chant, inside the night chant, there's a story. And in the story, a boy has a dream. And in the dream, rams with blue faces come to him and they say, your people are killing more game than they need. And this is throwing the universe off balance. And if your people do not return to just taking what they need, we will make the game scarce and there will be a famine and starvation. The boy wakes up from his dream and he goes to the hunters of the tribe and he tells them about this dream. And they laugh at him and they say, go back to your dreaming and let us do the hunting. Well, then a famine happens. The game becomes scarce. There's a famine. People starve. And then the people remember this boy's dream. And they resolve to never, ever hunt more than they need again. Not only to never hunt more than they need, but to never take more of anything than they need. And this is one of our founding beliefs in my tribe and in many other tribes as well. This is called subsistence living, subsistence culture. We think of it almost as a sin to take more than you need of anything, because when you take more than you need, you draw down on the resources of our environment and of our planet. And those, if everyone's doing that, that may be too big a strain for our planet. And so it's a simple story. Here's the blue ram in sand painting. And here's the blue ram in petroglyph. Been here for hundreds, if not thousands of years. And guess who the blue ram's hanging out with? Seen that before? It's the spiral petroglyph from the Anasazi. These are our values, which I just talked about. Not only that you only take what you need, but you also give some of what you have to others who cannot hunt for themselves, elderly, children, disabled. And after you are done, you leave everything the way you found it. These simple story, however, look through a different lens. The values demonstrate the application of sound ecological principles for conservation of natural resources. Environmental studies. When was environmental studies born in academia? I bet it's not even 200 years old. It might not even be 100 years old. They're late to the party. Youngsters, children, yajis. We call them yajis. You ever hear yazi? Somebody's last name is yazi. That means little one. Yajis. This maintenance of balance can result in the preservation of a pure habitat for humans to live in, which is essential to human health. This is what's at stake. This is on our reservation. This is below Page Dam on the Colorado River. I want my grandchildren to see this and to see it the way it is currently. When we speak as tribal people, we say we should be thinking about what we're doing now as it affects 5 to 7 generations in the future. That's the teachings of our elders. Going to skip by this, but just know that the ceremonies have lots of art in them, and art heals. And here's some examples of art. And I'm sorry I'm moving through quickly, but the animals, while we work to protect them as tribal people, the animals also help give back. They give us much comfort and they provide for us in many ways. The horse is so important to us. You know, the horse gives us energy, horse energy back, right? The dogs, if you love dogs, the animals give, and the natural world gives back to us too, through sunlight, forests, beaches, oceans. If you feel better out there, there's a reason. It's that energy, okay? Can induce anxiety and stress. We are ending at Shiprock, pregnant with dark cloud, rain. I always end with Shiprock. I just want to thank you for your time and your attention. I hope something of what I said may have meaning and go out into the universe further. Thank you.